This might be the most requested video that I have ever made. Regardless of what Donkey Kong Country video it is, but more specifically, my Lord Frederick analysis and my video talking about King K. Rool, I have gotten dozens and dozens of comments of people asking to see a video on Tiki Tong, and more specifically, the Tiki Tak Tribe as a whole. So, if you're one of those people who has commented, if you're one of the people like me who think the Tiki Tak Tribe is underrated, you are in luck. So, as you all know, when it comes to villains in the Donkey Kong Country franchise, the Kremlings, since the beginning, have always cast a very long and unescapable shadow. But it's understandable. King K. Rool is iconic. He's bombastic, he's over the top, and he's got a ridiculously memorable design, and his larger-than-life personality really helps him stand out. So it's understandable that when Donkey Kong Country Returns launched in 2010, things were different. Retro Studios made a very bold choice. They left the Kremlings behind, and introduced a brand new group of enemies, the Tiki Tak Tribe, led by the mysterious and imposing Tiki Tong. While these villains have often been dismissed by fans for not living up to their predecessors, in my opinion, the Tiki Tak Tribe and Tiki Tong in particular, they might not be quite as good as the Kremlings or even the Snowmads, in my honest opinion, but they still deserve a lot more appreciation than they get. So let's talk about what makes them underrated, and why I think they are a perfectly serviceable group of antagonists for Donkey Kong Country Returns. One of my favorite aspects of the Tiki Tak Tribe is the focus on music and hypnotism. Instead of just relying on brute force and chaos like the Kremlings do, the Tikis use subtlety and manipulation to get what they want. From the moment that you boot up the game, it's very clear that these villains are different. The Tikis emerge from a dormant volcano and immediately begin hypnotizing the island's wildlife to do their bidding for them. They're working smarter, not harder. Elephants, frogs, giraffes all fall under the hypnotism of the Tikis, and they steal the banana horde once again. The theme of control ties perfectly into the game's emphasis on rhythm and timing. Every move that you make as Donkey Kong feels synchronized with the vibrant soundtrack, and the Tiki's connection to music adds an extra layer of depth to this game. It is a very clever way to weave the villains into the very DNA of Donkey Kong Country Returns itself, making them feel integral to the experience rather than just another group of baddies. At first glance, the Tiki Tak Tribe might seem overly simplistic and kind of bland compared to the Kremlings. They're wooden masks with cartoonish eyes and mouths. That's it, at first glance. But this minimalism is actually one of my favorite things about them. They're so wildly different than the Kremlings, it felt refreshing to me. I like them, and I think they're underrated. The Tiki's design are inspired by Polynesian and tribal art, which aligns perfectly with the tropical setting of Donkey Kong Island. Their aesthetic is cohesive and adds a layer of cultural texture to this game's ever-expanding world. Tiki Tong, the final boss of the game and leader of the tribe, is the perfect culmination of this design philosophy. He is a towering, ominous figure that is made entirely of wood, with glowing red eyes and massive hands that he uses to crush his enemies. His design may not be as flamboyant or eccentric as King K. Rool's, but you can't deny that it's visually striking. I think his design is awesome, and Tiki Tong embodies perfectly the primal and mysterious energy of the Tikis, and his visual simplicity makes him feel otherworldly, like a true force of nature, rather than just another cartoon villain. One of the criticisms that's often leveled at the Tiki Tak Tribe is that they lack personality compared to the Kremlings, but this critique completely misses the point. The Tikis are not meant to be quirky or comedic or hysterical like the Kremlings are. They're an enigmatic, almost alien force that just suddenly shows itself and poses a very different kind of threat. Their goal isn't personal revenge or treasure, it's the complete domination of Donkey Kong Island through hypnotic control. Tiki Tong especially embodies this menace. He doesn't speak, he doesn't crack jokes like K. Rool does, which is one of the criticisms that was thrown at him, but instead, he looms over the player as a silent, menacing figure. His lack of dialogue makes him feel more primal, more imposing, and more dangerous, a villain whose actions speak louder than their words. And by the time you reach him in the final battle, the stakes feel genuinely high. He's obviously an obstacle that you have to overcome to beat the game, but he's also the culmination of the Tiki's eerie, otherworldly presence throughout this entire journey. The Tiki Tak Tribe also shines in the gameplay department, particularly when it comes to the boss battles. Each boss is a hypnotized animal, a giant crab, a possessed bird, a raging mole train, and the Tikis themselves appear as instigators of this chaos. Like I said, they are working smarter, not harder. The fights are creative, they're challenging, and they make excellent use of the game's mechanics and storytelling. Tiki Tong's boss battle is the cherry on top. It's a multi-phase fight that tests everything that you've learned throughout the game. His massive hands slam down with brutal force, his projectiles keep you on your toes, and the final moments of the battle are a truly heart-pounding test of precision and timing. It's a fight that feels both satisfying and very climactic, a worthy end to the Tiki's reign of terror. So, why are the Tiki Tak Tribe and Tiki Tong so underrated? Well, part of it comes down to nostalgia, obviously, which is not always a bad thing. Fans have grown attached to the Kremlings and King K. Rool, and the Tiki's more subdued approach didn't immediately resonate with everyone. But over a decade later, I think it's time to re-evaluate their place in the franchise. The Tiki Tak Tribe brought something fresh and thematically rich to the table, and Tiki Tong stands out as a unique and very memorable final boss and main villain of this story. And with Donkey Kong Country Returns coming out in just over 3 weeks, there's no better time to reanalyze this group of villains than now. In the grand tapestry of Donkey Kong Country villains, the Tiki Tak Tribe may never achieve the same level of recognition as the Kremlings or possibly even the Snowmads, but their impact on Donkey Kong Country is there. They are a very fascinating departure from tradition, and they're a group of villains that complement the game's tone, mechanics, and setting in a way that deserves to be celebrated. And as for Tiki Tong, he's more than just a great villain. To me, he's a reminder that sometimes less is more.